Okay. Um, I'm assuming everyone can see my screen and everyone can hear me. Okay, so I'll head straight. So for today, I'll be discussing and about artificial intelligence, and to relatively have an easy understanding as to what a technology is, and hopefully I will be able to do that. So majority of the people that I've talked and interacted, especially those who are not familiar with artificial intelligence, always associate a artificial intelligence with robots, especially the Terminator, because like it's a common movie in which people are scared about that at some point in our lifetime, robots would overtake humans. And we're going to like, look into that. Are we going to head to that type of future, or is that future not going to come by? So what we see and what we have been experiencing now in terms of how AI is being used is we're seeing collaboration between humans and artificial intelligence. So we're seeing that some of the tasks that are common or repeated tasks are being transferred to robots or being transferred to machines to enable them to do those tasks efficiently. So it's not meant to replace someone's job, but it's meant to help humans to execute some of those tasks that are boring for us, that we feel repetitive for us. And on the other side, that's where humans would actually be useful because they need to still like maintain all of these systems. They need to be able to also help explain why does the decision made by this machine actually think of that decision. So be able to explain why those decisions are made by the machines are relatively important, and be able to like actually train by adding more data, by putting intelligence on the machine itself. And we're seeing a lot of those happening. We are actually consumers of artificial intelligence ever since, and we didn't notice it. So if you're using emails, that's already using artificial intelligence, and they're using a technology called email spam detection, which tries to understand the contents of your email and automatically label if this is going to your inbox or this is going automatically to your spam. And it tries to help us um, not be a victim of cyber attacks, which is like common, right? So it also continues to evolve because more and more people are also leveraging the technology itself for evil use. That's why this technology is also constantly evolving as how spams are actually crafted and created in the future and even today. Besides that, we are also fond of using a lot of recommendation systems. If you're using Netflix, if you're using Amazon, if you're using Spotify, all of those technologies are powered by artificial intelligence, and they are using a technology called recommendation system. And if you are an avid or a fan of using Netflix, so the recommendation system there helps you find a specific show that is relevant to your interest. Same goes to with Amazon's recommendation system. It tries to look into what have you purchased in the past, what are your historical history of like views on a specific product, and try to associate it on a bigger audience and how they purchase data. And they use all of this recommend data to actually recommend which products would be appropriate or recommended to you by the engine. So same goes also with how Spotify developed the recommendation system. So it's also based on how you interact with the system itself. So what songs or playlists that have you played? What items have you like click on and rated and like, and what other users have listened and like as well, trying to understand all of those interactions happening on the system and trying to provide you new music and new environment to actually interact. So a lot of those existing systems have been there that we have actually been using. If you're using Facebook, if you upload pictures automatically, it would identify images. So it's using a technology called face recognition, right? So it's there. It's part of the technology that we have been using. It's just like it's more on the back end rather than like in a complete system that is relatively new to us. It's already embedded on a lot of systems. And if you're using, for example, iPhone or even Android phones, you can trigger Siri or you can trigger Google Assistant, and you can actually talk using your natural language or voice to perform specific tasks such as searching or playing a music or um, having all of those questions that you have in your head and you're just lazy to type it. You can just like use your voice to trigger a search on your phone. So all of those are enabled by this technology called artificial intelligence. And it's also used in a wide array of industries and field. It's used in NASA. So it's relatively hard to look into our galaxy and be able to identify which of those stars are planets or even are even a star. So they actually try to capture all of this data. So and they are detecting how the light travels. So as you can see here, if this is like a planet, you can see that there's a change of like the light value or the brightness value of that specific star. And they use this information and data to observe all of the stars in available whether they can actually capture and absorb to try to identify if this specific star is a planet. Okay, so they are actually using all of this data. Imagine if we're doing this manually, it would definitely take us years, right? So it's impossible for us as humans to that we can actually do it, but it will definitely take us time. But if you're empowering this capability to aid using machines, so we can actually do our specific task quicker and faster. So it's also used in healthcare. There's a lot of like research revolving around cancer detection to be able to also look into your pupil and your retina to help you understand health symptoms. A lot of those is happening. And in Japan specifically, they are actually developing robots intended for their aging community. So you can see in the images here that they are actually constructing robots, and you can see that the robots are not that like a Terminator look-alike, but it's more of a friendly robot in a sense. And as what you can see here, it's not yet that intelligent. They just only perform a specific function. In this case, carry you from one point to another, not yet incorporating understanding of how you speak or probably understanding how you are actually seeing things across the environment. And it's also been used in agriculture, and this is relevant in our context here in the Philippines, right, in which we're an agriculture country, and it's also been used in that space. So one application of it is they had developed a mobile application that aids farmers to identify and detect if there are what are these plant diseases, so that they would know how to actually do precision farming on their own manual effort, right? So at the same point in time, they also like put sensors to cows and identify if these cows are sick so that they can immediately separate them from the herd. So all of these capabilities are powered by artificial intelligence. Again, merging other technologies as well, such as mobile devices, mobile app development, and then sensors, which would definitely include IoT. For social good, there's a lot of like usage here. I think in Brazil, they were able to create and place devices that listens to sounds of illegal loggers, so that once it's detected, it would automatically ping the rangers in their offices to go to that specific location. So imagine if there's only few resources monitoring all of this, it would definitely be a challenge for them to take care of the forest itself. They're using technology to enable them to see what's happening on the ground, and so that they can immediately take action. So, and some of the client use cases that we have use artificial intelligence. So we have helped a company build an optical character recognition solution that helps them automate their form processing. I think optical character recognition has been there, but it still has quite some challenges in our context because when you upload images, sometimes it's a photocopy version of that image. You have different variations of pictures and such, which makes the machine challenge in terms of like understanding all of this content. So how do we help them is we automatically extract information from these documents and place them into a database format so that it would be much more easy to consume and much more easy for our clients to understand where those data are coming from. And we also like built a custom engine that is able to understand local languages. We know that Philippines is home for around 180 plus languages. We ourselves are constant, are multilinguals. We speak Tagalog, we speak English. Sometimes, probably some of you who are coming from the provinces are speaking a different like language, right? And use that in one sentence. So it's kind of challenging, right? So we have built a system that is able to understand nuances in the language and to be able to understand that. And where is it relevant? It's relevant into our marketing, for example, to understand what are your complaints that you post on social media. It will definitely like, help them understand all of those, right? So people are confused as to like what is artificial intelligence, what is machine learning, what is deep learning, because there's a lot of like technical terms, right? So to give clarity on that, so artificial intelligence is like the main branch of science, which relatively deals with helping or making machines solve problems that are commonly associated with human intelligence. It's either speaking or understanding language, or it's either using your eyes to understand what's on the images. So if the challenge or if the problem is intended to solve and using human intelligence is where artificial intelligence is used. And in the early days of artificial intelligence, they just use a context called rule-based, meaning like if, for example, in the doctor, if you are 37 degrees and above, you are or 38 degrees and above, you have fever. If it's below, you don't have any fever. So it's at the early days of artificial intelligence, it's as simple as that. You just generate rules and the AI itself would just check on the list of rules. If it complies on those rules, then the prediction would be you have a fever or you don't have a fever. So I think in the context of COVID, right? So if you have this, you were able to get in contact with someone that is positive, or you go in a place in which majority of those are positive. The rule will be you probably have a potential that you have contracted COVID. So it's relatively rule based at the early stages or early years of AI, which is in the 1950s. But today, since it's already like improved, we now are able to create machines that is able to actually construct rules by themselves just by sharing data. So instead of us crafting rules, it's the machine who are crafting the rules based on the data that we provide. So this is where machine learning comes into play, in which the machines learn from experience. So instead of us telling them what to do or telling them that this should actually, if you do this, this should actually be the output. It's the machine who tries to infer that based on the data. And in 2014, you have a new technology called deep learning, which is again, it's a different algorithm inside machine learning itself. So nowadays, when people talk about AI, they always like refer to machine learning because they need to get or capture a lot of data to generate machine learning, what we call like machine learning models, and we're going to cover later. So artificial intelligence, they have two types of it. So you have narrow intelligence and general intelligence. Narrow, if you say narrow, it's because it can only perform one task, right? So If the AI can just only detect images, then it's just only performing one task. It's narrow intelligence. If the AI can actually do a lot of tasks similar to what humans can do, I can speak, I can actually move my hands, I can move my head. That's what we call the artificial general intelligence. It can perform multitude of tasks all at the same time. And in terms of where are we right now on the field itself, narrow intelligence is a lot of development of that. So you can see recommendation system, which recommends you products, and you can see face detection that actually identifies faces. And in the field of artificial general intelligence, it's still on its early stage. Okay, so going back, we discussed about machine learning. As mentioned, it's actually allowing us to understand, build machines that is able to understand how we actually do specific tasks just by exploring and providing data. So in machine learning, you just need to identify what's a task, ano ba yung experience, meaning like what do you need to train or on the machine itself, and you have a measurement, a performance measure in a sense. So in general, there's a lot of like tasks depending on data. So you have, if we're dealing with text data, we're doing what we call as like natural language processing, and it's definitely a huge field. So if you are dealing with text data, you can explore natural language processing, and you can see a lot of like contents here that you can explore. If we're dealing with images, if we're dealing with videos, so the technology that we're going to use is called machine vision. So it's again a task inside artificial intelligence. So if it's text, it's natural language processing. If it's videos and images, we're going to use machine vision. And these are some of the tasks that you can do in machine vision. So going back into machine learning, so how do we now do machine learning, right? So if I'm going to create a project now, we discuss all of those concepts. If I'm going to now immerse myself into building machine learning, what should I consider, and what do I need to do? So in definition, so machine learning is a way to use standard algorithms to derive predictive insights from data to make repeated decisions. So we're dealing with four concepts here. So algorithms, you have data, predictive insights, and repeated decisions. So if we're talking about algorithms, there's a lot of like algorithms there out, and it's a continuous development of algorithms. That's why you have deep learning. This is continuously improving, and there's a lot of like cool academic field and scientific field who are continuously pushing the boundaries of knowledge into understanding how to create new algorithms. But if you're going to just start first, immediately explore machine learning, there are already existing algorithms that you can use. So if you go back to your algebra days, you have linear algebra. So it's one of the common algorithms that you can use in machine learning. And another important aspect of machine learning is data. So it's either you have your own internal data in your companies, or you can actually generate data by yourselves. So it's either actually acquiring existing data, or you generate data. So very, very important aspect is you have data for you to build machine learning systems. Okay, and sometimes expectation is you need to have an AI team, you throw them with data and assume that data would be valuable immediately. No. Sometimes you work with subject matter experts. So me, myself, I'm not familiar with Filipino. I need to work with linguists. If I'm going to work or build machine learning system intended to healthcare, I need to work together with experts, like with radiologists, with doctors. So it's not just that if I'm an AI engineer or an ML engineer or a researcher by myself, I know how to build it. But in terms of like what data is valuable, it's the subject matter expert that has a say for that, that can actually help us understand what data are valuable, right? If I'm dealing with legal documents, I don't know what's important in a legal document, so I will be asking probably Attorney Lars or Attorney JJ to help me understand it, because they're the subject matter expert. So if you're working with data, it's not just like the data, but also subject matter experts who knows what data are valuable. And besides that, so once we are actually have captured data, we use this data to actually do predictive insights or repeated decisions. What do we mean by this? So a lot of people assume that if I'm going to do a task, automatic AI na yun or machine learning na yun. No. So, for example, in manufacturing, if we're doing visual inspection, so that's a type of like an AI system. If we're in the marketing and we will want to do recommendation system, that's an AI system. If we are in sales and we would want to sort which leads are important or which leads are going to generate on sales, it's used leveraging artificial intelligence. So it's not the challenge is like identifying, is this AI system or is this not AI system? So this is one of the challenge when you're going to work with machine learning, because sometimes it could be construed as it can do everything. No, it can just only do a specific set of tasks given if we have a lot of data. So we're going to look into the aspect of law. This is like a recent report by Bloomberg in which that they asked a sample size of around 331 in-house and law firm responders on how they are actually using artificial intelligence in law and legal, and they have been using it in legal research, in e-discovery, document review, drafting tools, contract management, litigation analytics, and compliance or risk analytics. And based on my interaction to lawyers and some of my friends who are on the legal, so some of the existing use cases that are commonly used right now includes automated extraction of metadata from legal documents. So for example, given a document, I need to extract their important information. What are the important information if the document type is this? If I'm dealing with a different document type, if it's a patent, what are the important information that I can extract there? If it's a binding contract with business, what are the important information there? So automatically extracting all of those information and tagging it as metadata is one of a specific use case that is relevant for legal. And you do that because you need to actually do what we call as intelligent document search. And again, as paralegals, I think paralegal experiences is more on watching suits. So like I've seen character where it's like searching a lot of documents on one huge office and at a limited amount of time, right? So the intelligent document search enables you to do the specific task very, very quick because it automatically identifies what are the relevant document based on the search keyword that you actually type. And it tries to build that knowledge base that these are the similar cases and these are the similar, for example, judges, these are the similar discussions about that specific topic. So our use cases involve document validation, form completion, and legal analytics. So is your company, so we've been talking about a lot of use cases since I'm running a lot of time and I need to speed things up. So is your company or how your company needs to be ready for artificial intelligence? So number one is, does your company generate data? So it's a very critical aspect that you need to identify if you have existing data, or if you don't have any existing data, can you generate your own data, right? So it's either you use your existing data or you create new data sources for you to enable creation of machine learning systems. So in existing organizations, especially from our experience on the enterprise, sometimes data are compartmentalized. So you need to like be able to understand, are this data compartmentalized? How easy for me to access these data? Because sometimes the data in sales and the data in marketing can actually be merged together to make the data make sense, right? And another question is, how well do you know your data? As mentioned a while ago, working with subject matter experts would help us understand better what data is valuable and be able to understand what decisions are made using this data, and the frequency of those decisions are very critical for us to see, is AI really relevant for the project that we would want to aspire and create. Okay, so if we're going to build specific systems or machine learning related systems, first is understanding if we're going to have data and to be able to create a holistic look as how we can generate data. In the legal space, there's a lot of data, right? Contracts is already a form of data. But in other industries, it's a challenge to create data. So how do we now create data? And to be able to break down data silos, because all of those data are relevant, so we need to make sure that we have access on those data. And we need to understand and learn about your data. It can also like involving private information. So how do we deal with private information? Does it have an impact if we remove all of those information from our data, right? So we need to learn about our data. And initially, for some of the clients that we work, we actually very important to start with pilot projects first, so that they would know the impact of that project within the organization, because before they fully develop it into a holistic system embedded into their company. And when we're working with machine learning models, very, very important, and it has an important, or has the most value if we're doing it with the real-time data. Meaning, are this prediction that we're actually capturing from the machine learning system, is it doing that prediction real time? Right? How frequent are those? I have one client that they're doing the prediction just only once. So it would definitely not have that value. I wouldn't even suggest to like build a machine learning system if the decision is like once per day. Because like machine learning model has its value if we're dealing with real-time data. For example, visual inspection in manufacturing, right? Since they're producing a lot of chips, for example, or products, to be able to understand which products are good to go to the groceries, for example, are very important. Okay, and it needs to do that very, very quick and fast. So, what are the strategies to incorporate artificial intelligence? So, first is to assess and understand, do you really need artificial intelligence as a company, right? So, first is the technical diligence, meaning does the technology can actually do that task? Because sometimes it's possible that your ideas might be impossible to do given the current technology limitations that we have. So what's the technical diligence? To be able to understand also, are the data available? Is the data enough? And do we need artificial intelligence for that solution? Right? Because sometimes we really don't need AI. Okay. Next is business diligence. This is where we try to understand and assess what's the business impact. Because again, we're creating this initiative because we would want to understand if AI in itself has a huge impact in our organization or business. So we need to understand, will this lower the costs? Will this increase our revenue? Well, is this like a product that I will be offering to my clients to help me launch a new product? Okay, so we need to understand what's the impact of that on the business, right? Because we don't want to invest on something that has no impact on the business, right? So this is where we try to work on the first phase with the business owners, with the company executives, and to understand what are the unique use cases within the company. So once we have identified, for example, a use case, then organizations can now proceed with a pilot to understand further and better how the solution works. And if the pilot is successful, they can now move into a full development deployment of that project, then do the system integration. So a lot of the consideration, it's not just, it's a fancy technology, I would want to use it. You need to also consider holistically how will the system affect humans also within the offices, and how the system would affect integration of that to the existing ecosystem of your company and business. So I hope I was able to impart new knowledge. I'll be happy to answer a lot of questions later. So thank you so much.